Those people out on the streets, that's a sea change.
They're going to help redeem the soul of America and save our country and maybe help save the planet.
We are back on this Saturday morning, July 18th, 2020. That was the former President Barack Obama holding a virtual town hall last month alongside the Congressman John Lewis, the two speaking about racial injustice in America and the wave of protests in the face of George Floyd's death.
We are remembering Congressman Lewis this morning after he died on Friday at the age of 80 after a battle with pancreatic cancer. In 1965, Lewis was brutally beaten by Alabama state troopers, horrifying the nation and focusing increased attention on the civil rights movement. Lewis later went on to become an influential member of Congress. He dedicated his entire life to bringing justice and equality to the United States, even in his final days. Tributes are pouring in this morning for Lewis, who is often known as the conscience of Congress, a moral leader respected by Democrats and Republicans alike. Today, President Obama and members of Congress, past and present, are remembering Lewis as an American hero. And you see those images there with former President Barack Obama. He talked about what that meant for him to see Barack Obama elected, and the two of them continuing, he would say, to talk to young people about this moment.
And so few leaders who get to witness their legacy in real time, as we've seen with these nonviolent protests in recent months. We want to bring in NBC's Andrea Mitchell, who has covered Congressman Lewis for decades since he joined the Congress in 1986. Andrea, you knew him for years. Can you give us a sense about his impact on that institution?
He has been described, of course, as the conscience of Congress, as you've been reporting today, but that is such a deeply felt role that he played, because he was the moral leader. He was the core of what we used to know and respect and admire about Congress, and he was always calling us to a higher level and calling his colleagues to be in the moment. And when you think about the Black Lives Matter protest and how he marched and walked with Mayor Bowser there in that signature moment just last month, right, as ill as he was, as well as the sit-in for gun rights just struck me as such a moment. I saw last night one of the congresswomen talking about how they were trying to figure out how to get a vote, just to get a vote after the Pulse shooting, the nightclub shooting. And he said, we have to do the good fight. We have to do something dramatic. And that was to sit in the halls of Congress. It had never been done before. And for 25 hours, they sat on the House floor and could not get the vote, but they made the point. Of course, they didn't achieve the gun reform, the gun control measures that they wanted. But that also goes back to when I was interviewing him back in 2015 and asked him about Dr. King and the march and how they got the Voting Rights Act. And he said they went to Johnson, and Lyndon Johnson said, you have to make it possible for me to do this. We just did the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. I can't do that again. You have to make it possible. And by that, he meant make the conditions possible, arouse the nation. And that's what led to Selma and the other marches that then a year later led to the Voting Rights Act. So when we see the arc of history, his role was so central as a student, and that is the message that strikes me. As a student, he became one of the first freedom riders. How dangerous that was. I was in high school in those days, and I remember, and in fact, lost someone from our community where I lived up north who went down there, Michael Schwerner, in that as one of those original freedom riders who was killed in Mississippi. They were putting their lives on the line. And when John Meacham describes him as a saint willing to spill blood, he did it repeatedly, in the Carolinas and then again in Alabama, in Mississippi. What John Lewis did was always put himself in the line of fire. And what could be more saintly than that, while calling all of us to be better angels, to our better selves.
Andrea, we thank you. We're reminded as you speak about his role as one of the original 13 Freedom Riders. This photo that he posted just a matter of weeks ago, 59 years ago, he says, he was released from Parchman Farm Penitentiary after being arrested in Jackson, Mississippi for using a so-called white restroom during the Freedom Rides of 1961. He taught, be constructive, not destructive. Andrea, we thank you for sharing your memories.
Really appreciate
Okay.
your perspective, Andrea,
Sad
on
day.
this morning. It is a sad and somber day. Andrea, thank you for that.